So yeah, I think the Bucks are the favorites in the East right now. I will talk about their loss to the Sixers, and also as a Celtics fan, I should acknowledge the Bucks now have a 2-game lead. There was like a month ago where I did the East is super close video, and in that video I was like, well, the Celtics have a bit of a lead, so let's focus on everybody else. And well, then the Bucks won 16 games in a row and all that. And the thing with that streak is within it, they were still like kind of gradually bringing Middleton back, which they're still doing now. It's not like he's playing 35 minutes a night, and it's not like he's going off every single night, even if they are giving him some liberties on offense. We'll talk about that. Bobby Portis missed a lot of games within that streak. I found some people kind of being cynical on the Bucks streak because, I mean, yeah, they got a couple of breaks in there. Like, they got the Nuggets without Jokic. They got the hospital Celtics for one of those games, but the Bucks were also dealing with guys being in and out of the lineup as well. Giannis had a couple of games where he left early, including one against the Heat, where even without him, the Heat still only scored 99 points with one play that I remember for some reason being, it just sums up the Bucks defense, right? It's like Tyler Hero coming around a Bam screen, Brook is in a drop, he's got Grayson Allen all over him, and then he's got to like throw a desperate corner pass to Caleb Martin, who shoots a three, and Bobby Portis closes out on that one, and it's like, yeah, this is what the Bucks do. I mean, we all know this. They've done it for years. If you want to look at the opponent's shot chart stuff, it's once again, the Bucks allow the most mid-range shots in the league by design. Teams do not shoot well from mid-range against them because Brook Lopez is like 9 feet tall. They give up the least amount of corner threes in the league because they don't have to put their defense in crazy rotation in order to stop guys from getting to the basket and all that. They give up among the least amount of shots in the rim at the league. They are the second best defensive rebounding team in the league. Like, this is the Bucks MO. We all get this. And within this, they've sprinkled in some Giannis at center stuff. They will switch more just simple like guard, wing stuff, which, you know, back in the bubble especially, I remember just constant complaints about Budenholzer's defense like being basically allergic to switching. And if I haven't given him enough credit, Drew Holiday, of course, one of the best defensive guards in the league. Anyway, let's talk about the offense and then compare the Bucks to the rest of the East for a little bit. I'll take 10 seconds on Giannis. He's the best player in the league. There you go. I don't know if he's going to win the MVP this year. Once again, it's him, Jokic, and Embiid as the top three. And really, with this Bucks offense, okay, so you're going to get your Drew, Brook, just basic pick and rolls, or you're going to get your Giannis head of steam in transition, or a little Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton off-ball action. All that is nice, and within that, I will get to Middleton. But all that's nice, and within that, you're going to get like your Drew, who has been feeling himself a bit recently with like pull-up jumpers and step backs, whether they're from like 15 feet or even out to 3. Of course, he's one of the strongest guards in the league, so he's always been able to get his bully ball on a bit as he's driving to the basket, and his assist to turnover stuff, especially lately, has been like kind of nuts. Brook has kind of been doing his version of cooking this year, if that's a thing, where like, you know, especially in that Sixers game, he had a number of plays where he would catch it and then do his version of a crossover and then finish at the basket. He's been doing that a little bit, where like if centers sag off of him, it's not always going to be a 3. Like he might actually go pump and then drive and then make something else happen. I think he's been a little more aggressive with cutting, as well as using this kind of floater thing that sometimes stretches all the way out to the free throw line. Like, yeah, and the threes are good. Middleton has had some big games since he came back. He's had some games where the point total is a little lower. They're pretty much letting him be him. Like, they're letting him ISO. They're letting him work off of screens. They're letting him get it in the post where he can then get to his turnarounds and all that. And I don't think it needs to be more in-depth than just, we all know Middleton's really good and he didn't play for a long time, so you just kind of got to let him work through it. And besides that, on offense, you know, Giannis has run some little actions with like Joe Ingles, which I think was the hope that Ingles could be another ball handler for him, and that's all good. As long as Giannis is just involved in a screen of some sort, whether it's him setting the screen or somebody screening for him, because they'll have Brook screen for him, sometimes they'll have guards or wings screen for him as well, I think that's enough for their fallback option on offense because of just how good Giannis is and the gravity he creates and all that. Like, you're not going to do it every single possession, I get that, but just never forgetting about it is key because sometimes the Bucks offense can go too much into freelance mode. Anyway, let's talk about them compared to the East. So the seedings, the way they line up right now for a Bucks-Sixers matchup, it doesn't really play out unless the Celtics lose, which I, of course, do not want to happen. But man, I just really want to see a Bucks-Sixers matchup at some point because there's just so much there, right? There's Embiid guarding Giannis in the half court. There's Brook in drop versus the Embiid Harden pick and roll, which for most of the season has led to Embiid then getting into that pull-up like 15-footer that at times feels like he never misses, which pretty much makes him unstoppable because of what he does in the post and the foul drawing and all that. Drew guarding Harden and just, I mean, we've seen the impact Drew has defensively in playoff series. Would the Bucks just plant Giannis on PJ Tucker, which means he can kind of just free roam like crazy on defense. The other thing about that series is there would be a lot of free throws, and the conversations on Twitter would definitely be something. I'll just leave it at that. While every single team has questions, like I just did a whole spiel about the Bucks half-court offense, when I compare my questions about the Bucks in a tough playoff series versus Philly, I just find myself leaning more towards the Bucks, where it's like, do I trust the Sixers when Embiid is not in the game? Which, granted, you can do that for every team, but I think for the Sixers especially, it's a little scarier. Sure, Harden being in the game certainly helps things with the lineups and all that, and also Philly's defense around Embiid, and is that good enough? Whereas I know the defense around Giannis for the Bucks is good enough. And as far as my Celtics, okay, to be fair, it's a whole lot better than what it was in the first half of last season, so I'm still overall positive about the team, but specifically when comparing them to the Bucks, this team is just weird as hell right now, man. It's like, there's just stretches where the movement off ball just kind of goes to a halt, and they become just a pick and roll heavy team, which can still work. And then other times it's like, Tatum, I love you. I don't know if I needed another contested three right now. And then you've got Time Lord and his health, which is always a thing, and I don't know, man. There's just more random like moments of what the hell was that with the Celtics defense, even if their defensive rating is like 4th in the league, and yet quickly gets a screen in double overtime, and there's just basically no help. I'm like, what are we doing right now? Also, for the Cavs and the Knicks and the Heat and everybody else in the East, look, shout out to you guys. I think the Bucks are better, and I hope that's not an insult. So yeah, I don't think the Bucks are going to sweep through the East or whatever. Like, them versus the Sixers and Celtics are going to be really competitive series, and like, would it shock me if the Celtics beat the Bucks? No, as I do cartwheels if that's the scenario. But yeah, if you force me to have a pick right now in the East, I think it's the Bucks.